Captain J1 Park stood on the bridge of the UEDF Indomitable, watching the stars stretch into impossible lines as his ship prepared for another quantum jump. He was 45 years old, with gray starting to show at his temples, and he had spent half his life in space. But nothing compared to commanding humanity's greatest achievement. The Supercarrier stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, carrying 5,000 crew members and enough firepower to defend Earth from any threat. Today, they would venture farther than any human had gone before. Jump drive charging to 90%, called out Taeyang Lee from the engineering station. The young engineer was only 28, but he understood the quantum systems better than anyone alive. His fingers danced across holographic controls as he monitored the experimental drive that made this mission possible. J1 nodded and turned to his navigator. Yoon Co, confirm our destination coordinates. Yoon Co Choi didn't look up from her station. Her eyes were fixed on the streaming data, double-checking every calculation. Coordinates confirmed, Captain. We'll emerge in the Sagittarius sector, approximately 15,000 light-years from Earth. Total jump time will be 47 seconds. Behind J1, Medical Officer Sung Ho Kong watched the preparations with concern. He was the oldest member of the senior staff, and he had seen enough accidents in his career to know that experimental technology always carried risks. Captain, perhaps we should run one more diagnostic before we jump. We've run diagnostics for 3 months, Doctor, J1 said gently. Admiral Hai-Jin Kim is expecting our first report within the week. Humanity needs to know what's out there beyond our little corner of the galaxy. Admiral Kim had been J1's mentor when he was young, teaching him everything about command. She was the one who had chosen him to lead this historic mission. He could still remember her words at the launch ceremony on Earth. Go see what's waiting for us among the stars. J1. Show the universe what humans can do. Jump drive at 100%, Taeyang announced. All systems green. We're ready, Captain. J1 settled into his command chair and gripped the armrests. He had made this same jump a dozen times during testing, but the anticipation never faded. All hands prepare for quantum jump. Jumping in 3.2.1. Ungauge. The universe twisted. It wasn't supposed to feel like anything. During test jumps, there had been a brief moment of disorientation. Nothing more. But this time, J1 felt reality itself bend around him. The stars outside the viewports didn't just streak, they shattered into fragments of light. Alarms began screaming across every station. The ship groaned like a dying animal, metal shrieking against forces it was never designed to withstand. Emergency shutdown. Taeyang shouted, his hands flying across controls. The quantum field is collapsing inward. We're caught in a cascade failure. Yoon Co's face had gone pale. Captain, our position is... I don't understand these readings. We're not where we're supposed to be. We're nowhere near Sagittarius sector. The ship lurched violently to one side. G1 heard screams from corridors beyond the bridge as crew members were thrown against bulkheads. Sparks erupted from overhead panels. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the blood-red glow of emergency lighting. Reroute all power to structural integrity. J1 commanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. A captain couldn't show fear, not when 5,000 lives depended on his composure. Taeyang, can you stabilize the drive? I'm trying. The engineer's voice cracked with stress. The quantum matrix is fragmenting. If I can just... The Indomitable gave one final tremendous shudder. Then, suddenly, everything went still. The alarms faded to silence. The ship's groaning stopped. Outside the viewports, the shattered stars resolved back into steady points of light. But they were the wrong stars. Sung Ho pulled himself up from where he'd fallen, checking for injuries. Is everyone all right? Around the bridge, crew members slowly got to their feet. J1 did a quick count. Everyone was alive, though several were bleeding from minor cuts. Damage report. All stations. Reports flooded in from across the massive ship. The quantum drive was offline, possibly permanently damaged. Hull breaches on decks 17 through 20. 3 crew members dead in engineering, crushed when a support beam collapsed. 47 injured. But the ship was intact, and they were alive. EUNCO stared at her navigation screens with an expression of pure disbelief. Captain, you need to see this. J1 moved to her station. The star charts made no sense. Where are we? If these readings are correct, UNCO's voice trembled. We're approximately 50,000 light years from Earth. The quantum cascade didn't just move us through space. It moved us through time. That's impossible, Sung Ho said. Look at the stellar drift calculations, Yunso insisted. These stars have moved. Their positions match what they should be 200 years from now. 200 years have passed on Earth while we were in that quantum field for less than a minute. The bridge fell silent. J1 felt the weight of her words settle on his shoulders like a physical thing. 200 years. Everyone they knew on Earth was dead. Admiral Kim, their families, their friends, all gone to dust. They were alone in an unknown region of space, impossibly far from home, stranded in a future they didn't belong to. Can we jump back? J1 asked quietly. Taeyang shook his head. The drive is completely destroyed, Captain. I can try to repair it, but without proper facilities. It could take years, maybe decades. And even if I succeed, we have no guarantee we can reverse the temporal displacement. J1 looked around at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes and despair starting to take root. This was the moment that would define everything. He could let them fall apart, or he could give them something to hold on to. He straightened his uniform and raised his voice so everyone on the bridge could hear him clearly. Listen to me. We are the UEDF Indomitable. We are the finest crew humanity ever assembled. I don't care if we're 50,000 light years from home, and I don't care if 200 years have passed. We will find a way back to Earth. We will survive, and we will adapt, and we will return home. That's not a hope. That's not a dream. That's an order. Do you understand? Slowly, heads began to nod. Backs straightened. The fear didn't disappear from their eyes, but it was joined by something else, now determination. Good, J1 said. Taeyang, begin assessment of the quantum drive. I want to know if we can repair it. UNCO, start mapping our position and looking for any inhabited systems nearby. Sung Ho, see to the wounded. We have work to do. As his crew moved to their tasks, J1 stared out at the alien stars. Somewhere out there, across impossible distance and through centuries of time, Earth waited. He had made a promise to Admiral Kim, and he intended to keep it. They would go home. No matter how long it took. 3 months had passed since the Indomitable's catastrophic jump, and J1 had learned that survival in unknown space required more than hope. It required constant vigilance, clever thinking, and sometimes brutal decisions. His ship had become a ghost, hiding in the shadows between stars, while his crew worked desperately to understand the galaxy they found themselves in. Security Chief Young Mi Han stood at attention in J1's ready room, her expression grim. She was a compact woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and right now those eyes held bad news. Captain, our food supplies will last 8 months at current rationing. Water recycling is at 93% efficiency. Ammunition for the railguns is adequate, but we're low on missile stocks after that encounter with the debris field. J1 rubbed his tired eyes. Sleep had become a luxury he could rarely afford. And the repairs? Tae-Yang says the quantum drive needs components we simply don't have. He's trying to fabricate replacements, but it's slow work. A chime at the door interrupted them. Come, J1 called. Baora Nam entered, the communications specialist practically vibrating with excitement. Captain, I've decoded another alien transmission. You need to hear this. They gathered around the holographic display in the center of the ready room. Baora played the transmission, and a harsh, clicking language filled the air. Subtitles appeared beneath as the ship's computer translated. J1 read them twice, unable to believe what he was seeing. They're talking about Earth. Young Mi whispered. The transmission was a news broadcast from something called the Vrelith Empire. It spoke of trade routes, territorial disputes, and then, almost casually, it mentioned Earth, the dead world, the extinct humans. A cautionary tale about species that reached for the stars too quickly and paid the price. They think we're extinct? Baora said. But it means Earth was attacked, J1 finished, his voice cold. And either everyone died, or they're losing so badly that the galaxy considers them finished. He stood abruptly and headed for the bridge. His crew scrambled to follow. When he arrived, he found Yoon Seo already pulling up star charts, her face intense with concentration. Show me Earth's location, J1 commanded. The holographic display shifted, zooming through countless star systems until it reached a familiar yellow sun. But something was wrong. The area around Earth was marked with red warning symbols that the computer had translated from Vrelith databases. Active war zone, Yoon Seo read. Multiple combatants. The hegemony controls most of the sector. Earth's defensive fleet is... Captain, according to this, Earth has been under siege for 70 years. 70 years. Ji-1 felt something cold settle in his chest. They had been gone for 200 years, but Earth had been fighting for nearly a third of that time. Fighting alone against something called the hegemony. What's the hegemony? Young Mi asked. Tae-Yang pulled up information from the captured databases. A coalition of 6 major alien species. They control about 40% of the galaxy. According to this, they view humans as a dangerous threat that needed to be eliminated before we could spread too far. A threat? Sung-Ho said. We were explorers, not conquerors. We were new, J1 said quietly, and we were advancing fast. They were afraid of what we might become. Fighter pilot Jin Woo-song spoke up from his station. He was young and cocky, with reflexes that made him the best pilot on the ship. So what do we do, Captain? We're one ship, 50,000 light-years from home. How do we help? J1 stared at the holographic display, his mind racing through possibilities. They couldn't jump home. The quantum drive was destroyed. They couldn't call for help. No communication could cross that distance. They were alone with a damaged ship, dwindling supplies, and no clear path forward. But they had something else. Something the galaxy had forgotten about in the 200 years since they'd left. Tae-Yang, J1 said slowly. How advanced is our technology compared to current galactic standards? The engineer's eyes widened as he understood. He began running comparisons, pulling data from the alien databases and comparing it to the indomitable systems. Captain, we're at least 200 years ahead of them. Our weapons, our shields, our sensors, everything. To them, we'd be like a warship from the future. A smile crossed Young Mi's face. We're not just one ship. We're a ghost from the past, armed with weapons they've never seen. Exactly, J1 said. He turned to address his entire bridge crew. We can't go home yet, but we can start fighting our way there. We'll gather resources, intelligence, and allies. We'll make the hegemony regret attacking Earth. And when we finally make it back, we'll bring everything we've learned with us. Over the following weeks, J1's plan took shape. They established a hidden base in an asteroid field, using the Indomitable's superior sensors to remain invisible. They sent out stealth probes to map hegemony supply routes. And when they were ready, they struck. The first target was a hegemony supply convoy carrying fuel and ammunition to the front lines. Jing Wu led a squadron of fighters out from the asteroid field, moving with a speed and precision that the alien escort ships couldn't match. The Indomitable itself remained hidden, but its railguns reached out across space with devastating accuracy. The attack lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, the convoy was scattered debris, and the Indomitable had vanished back into the asteroid field like a ghost. "They're confused," Boera reported, listening to enemy communications. "They don't know what hit them. They're calling it a new weapon, some kind of automated defense system." "Good," J1 said. "Let them wonder." They hit 3 more convoys over the next month. Each time, they took what they needed: fuel, food, spare parts, and destroyed the rest. Each time, they vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Tae-Yong used the captured technology to repair critical systems and improve their weapons. But it was during their 5th raid that everything changed. They had just finished destroying a hegemony munitions depot when Yun-Seo detected something unexpected, a distress signal from a nearby moon. The signal was weak and in a language the computer couldn't immediately translate. "Captain, I think there are prisoners down there," Yun-Seo said. J-1 made his decision in seconds. "Young Mi, take a team. Get them out." The rescue operation was quick and brutal. Young Mi's security forces stormed the prison facility while the Indomitable provided cover fire from orbit. They found 200 aliens inside, members of a species called the Kalish, who had been captured for refusing to join the hegemony. The Kalish leader, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, approached J1 on the bridge. Through the translator, he spoke with deep reverence. "You are humans. We thought your kind was destroyed. We're hard to kill," J1 replied. "What can you tell us about Earth?" The Kalish leader's expression grew sad. "Your world still fights. The last free humans defend their homeworld with extraordinary courage. But they are losing. The hegemony sends more ships every year, grinding them down. Most of the galaxy has forgotten Earth exists. Those who remember consider it only a matter of time before the final assault." J1 felt his hands clench into fists. "How far to Earth from here?" 50,000 light years, as you measure distance. Without a functioning quantum drive, it would take a lifetime to reach, even at maximum speed. "Then we have work to do," J1 said. He turned to Tae-Yang. "How long to repair the quantum drive?" Tae-Yang hesitated. "With proper materials and help? Maybe 5 years." "Captain, I've been studying the hegemony technology. If we combine their power systems with our quantum matrix design, I think I can build something even better than what we had." "Do it," J1 ordered. "We're going home. And when we get there, we're bringing hell with us." 5 years had changed everything. J1 looked at his reflection in the mirror of his quarters and saw a man he barely recognized. More gray in his hair now, lines around his eyes deeper than before. He was 50 years old, though sometimes he felt ancient. The weight of 5,000 souls pressed on him every day, but they had survived. More than survived, they had thrived. The Indomitable had become a legend across this sector of space. Alien species whispered about the ghost carrier that appeared from nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished before anyone could respond. Some thought it was a hegemony secret weapon that had gone rogue. Others believed it was a vengeful spirit, punishing the wicked. Only a few knew the truth, that humanity's lost ship had returned, and it was fighting its way home. On the bridge, the atmosphere was different now. The crew moved with the confidence of veterans who had faced death and won. They had fought in dozens of battles, freed hundreds of enslaved worlds, and built a network of allies across 1,000 light years. Dae Hyeon Yoon, a former civilian researcher who had become one of their best tactical officers, stood studying a holographic display. "Captain, the reconnaissance team is back from the hegemony facility. You need to see this." Jae-won joined him at the display. The facility in question was massive, a military research station protected by an entire fleet. But according to their intelligence, it held something priceless, a prototype quantum reactor with enough power to make the long jump home. "It's suicide," Quartermaster Mi Sun-oh said flatly. She had kept them supplied through impossible odds, trading salvage and captured technology for food and fuel. "That facility has 50 warships protecting it. We're one carrier against 50. 47, young Mi corrected. I've studied their patrol patterns. 3 ships are always on the far side of the station. If we time it right, we only face 47. "Oh well, that makes it so much better," Mi-san muttered. Jin-woo laughed from his fighter station. The young pilot had become a legend in his own right, with 70 confirmed kills and a reputation for impossible maneuvers. "Come on, Mi-san. When have the odds ever been in our favor?" "That's not comforting, Jin-woo," Sung-ho said. The doctor looked tired. 5 years of constant battles had filled his medical bay too many times. "Captain, even if we succeed, the casualties will be severe." Jae-won knew he was right. This would be their most dangerous mission yet. But without that reactor, they would spend decades slowly crawling toward Earth. By the time they arrived, there might be nothing left to save. "We're doing this," Jae-won said firmly. "But we're going to be smart about it. Tae-young, what do you need?" The engineer had aged too, though his eyes still sparkled with the same genius that had kept them alive. "I need 45 minutes inside that facility. 30 to remove the reactor core, 15 to make sure it doesn't explode when we move it." 45 minutes, Jae-won repeated. "Yoon-seo, can we hold position that long?" The navigator nodded slowly. "If we use the asteroid field for cover and our stealth systems, maybe. But the moment we fire weapons, they'll know exactly where we are." "Then we don't fire first," Young Mi said. "We send boarding parties to disable their ships from the inside before they can respond." It was a desperate plan, but desperate was all they had. They spent 2 weeks preparing, running simulations until every crew member knew their role perfectly. The Kalish allies provided updated intelligence and maps of the facility's interior. Even some of the freed prisoners volunteered to help, grateful to strike back at their former captors. On the day of the attack, Jae-won stood on the bridge and looked at his crew. 5 years ago, we were lost and alone. Today, we're going to steal the key to getting home. Some of us won't make it back, but those who do will be part of the mission that saved Earth. Are you ready?" The chorus of affirmations was deafening. The Indomitable dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the asteroid field, invisible to normal sensors. Young Mi's boarding teams launched in stealth shuttles, each one heading toward a different hegemony warship. Jin-woo's fighters remained hidden in the carrier's launch bays, waiting. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. The hegemony fleet patrolled lazily, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Then, simultaneously, 17 warships went dark as boarding teams took control of their command decks. "Go!" Jae-won ordered. The Indomitable burst from cover at full speed, its railguns already firing. Tae-young's assault team launched toward the research facility in armored shuttles. Jing-woo's fighters erupted from the launch bays like angry hornets, engaging the confused hegemony ships. The battle was chaos. The hegemony forces were skilled and numerous, but the Indomitable's 200-year technological advantage made the difference. Their shields absorbed hits that would have destroyed modern ships. Their weapons cut through enemy armor like paper, but there were so many enemies. A hegemony battlecruiser broke through the fighter screen and launched missiles at the Indomitable. Young Mi's point defense systems shot down most of them, but 3 got through. The carrier shuddered as explosions rippled across its hull. Hull breach on Deck 9. Someone shouted, "Seal it." J1 commanded, gripping his chair. "Tae-yang, how long?" 30 minutes. The engineer's voice came through the comm, strained but focused. "We're cutting through the containment field now." An alarm blared. Yoon Seo's face went pale. "Captain, enemy reinforcements just jumped in. 20 more ships." J1 felt his stomach drop, but he kept his voice steady. "All fighters, defensive formation around the facility. We hold this position until Tae-yang is done." Jin Woo's squadron wheeled around, engaging the new arrivals with desperate intensity. 2 fighters exploded in quick succession. 3 more took critical damage and had to retreat. But they held the line. On the research facility, Tae-yang and his team wrestled the massive reactor core onto their shuttle. "We've got it. Heading back now." Negative. J1 saw a hegemony destroyer moving to intercept Tae-yang's shuttle. Jin Woo, clear that destroyer. On it. The ace pilot dove his fighter toward the enemy ship, firing everything he had. The destroyer's shields flickered and died. "It's clear." Go, go, go. Tae-yang's shuttle raced back toward the Indomitable with the stolen reactor. Behind them, the research facility began to explode, its containment systems failing without the reactor to power them. The blast consumed the nearest hegemony ships. "Reactor secure," Tae-yang announced as his shuttle landed in the hangar bay. "Get us out of here." But it wasn't that simple. A hegemony battleship had positioned itself between the Indomitable and open space. Its weapons charged, ready to deliver a killing blow. "Ramming speed," J1 said quietly. "Captain?" Yoon Seo looked at him in shock. "You heard me. Ramming speed. Full shields to forward section." The Indomitable accelerated. The hegemony battleship fired, its weapons hammering the carrier's shields. The shields held, barely. Then 3 kilometers of human warship slammed into the alien vessel at full speed. Metal screamed. Both ships shuddered from the impact. But the Indomitable was bigger, tougher, built to withstand punishment. The battleship broke apart. "Jump," J1 ordered. "Now." Yoon Seo's hands flew across her controls. Space twisted, and the Indomitable vanished from the battlefield, leaving only debris and bewildered enemies behind. In the sudden quiet after the jump, J1 took stock. 47 crew members dead, over 100 wounded. The ship had taken severe damage to its bow and multiple hull sections. But they had the reactor. Tae-yang appeared on the bridge, dirty and exhausted, but grinning. "Captain, this reactor is incredible. Combined with our quantum drive, I can get us home. I can get us all the way to Earth." G1 looked around at his crew, at their tired but triumphant faces. "How long?" "Give me 3 months to install it properly. Then we make the jump home." 3 months. After 5 years of fighting, 3 months seemed like nothing. G1 stood and addressed his crew one final time. "You heard him. 3 months, and we're going home. And when we get there, we're going to show the hegemony what happens when they threaten humanity." Commander Soo-Jin Bae stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, watching her world die by degrees. She was 40 years old and had spent half her life fighting this war. Her uniform was worn thin in places, patched and repatched because manufacturing new ones was a luxury Earth could no longer afford. Around her, tired officers monitored screens showing the latest hegemony assault. Sector 7 shield generators failing, someone reported. Estimate 15 minutes before complete collapse. Sujin wanted to scream, but she had run out of screams years ago. Now there was only a hollow numbness and the grim determination to make the enemy pay for every meter of ground. Reroute power from residential sectors. Keep those shields up. Commander, that will leave 3 million people without power. Her second-in-command protested weakly. And if those shields fall, those 3 million people will be dead, Sujin said flatly. Do it. On Earth's surface, General Wu Jin Lim commanded what remained of humanity's ground forces. He had fought in trenches, in ruined cities, in underground bunkers, and on the scarred plains where nothing grew anymore. He was 53, though he looked 70. The war had aged them all prematurely. General, hegemony landing forces detected in North America sector, his aide reported. Estimate 200,000 troops. Wu Jin studied the tactical map with weary eyes. He had maybe 50,000 soldiers left in that entire continent, and most of them were exhausted, undersupplied, and running out of ammunition. Send what we can. And pray. Prayer was about all they had left. Earth had been under siege for 70 years, and the end was approaching fast. The hegemony's 7th Fleet controlled the space around Earth, slowly tightening the noose. Every year, fewer supply ships made it through the blockade. Every year, more orbital defenses fell. Every year, humanity's light grew dimmer. Dr. Ji Young Kwan worked in a bunker 3 kilometers below Earth's surface, surrounded by old data files and ancient equipment. She was a scientist, though there was little science left to do these days except figuring out how to survive another day. Her current project was studying old records from the UEDF Indomitable, the legendary ship that had vanished 200 years ago. It's useless, her assistant said. Why study a dead ship from a dead era? Because the Indomitable was humanity's masterpiece, Ji-Young replied, not looking up from her screens. Understanding how they built it might help us build something better, if we ever get the chance. She didn't mention her secret hope, the desperate, foolish hope that somewhere out there, the Indomitable still existed, that it might somehow find its way home. It was impossible, of course. 200 years had passed. Even if the ship had survived whatever disaster befell it, the crew would be long dead, but hope was all they had left. On the orbital defense station, alarms suddenly blared across every console. Sujin spun toward the sensors. What is it? Quantum signature. The sensor officer shouted. Something big just jumped in system. It's... Commander, I don't know what I'm looking at. The signature doesn't match anything in our database. Sujin's heart raced. Reinforcements? No, that was impossible. Every human colony had been destroyed or cut off years ago. If this was a quantum jump, it had to be the hegemony bringing in more forces for the final assault. Battle stations, she ordered. All ships, prepare for engagement. But then she saw it on the displays. A massive ship, larger than anything the hegemony had ever fielded, emerging from quantum space at the edge of the battle zone. Its design was strange, almost archaic, with lines that reminded her of something she'd seen in history files. Commander, the sensor officer said, his voice shaking. That ship? It's broadcasting UEDF identification codes. Old codes from 200 years ago. Sujin felt the world tilt beneath her. That's impossible. The identification confirms it, the officer insisted. That's the UEDF Indomitable. The lost carrier. It's back. On the bridge of the Indomitable, J1 stared at the tactical display with a mixture of rage and horror. The Earth he remembered blue and green and beautiful was now scarred with the marks of decades of war. Orbital debris filled the space around it. Hegemony ships swarmed like locusts around a dying plant. How many? He asked quietly. EUNCO swallowed hard. 217 hegemony warships, Captain. And that's just in orbit. There are at least 3 times that many in the outer system. 217. Against one carrier, no matter how advanced. The odds were insane. Young Mi stepped up beside him. Orders, Captain? Ji-1 thought of Admiral Hai-Jin Kim, his mentor from so long ago. She would be old now, if she was even still alive. He thought of everyone on Earth fighting a war that had lasted longer than some civilizations. He thought of every promise he'd made over the past 5 years. All hands to battle stations, J1 said. Jin Woo, launch all fighters. Tae Young, I want every weapon online. Yoon Seo, plot us a course straight through the enemy fleet. We're going to even these odds. Captain, we should announce ourselves, Sumo suggested. Let Earth know we're here. J1 nodded. Open a channel. All frequencies. When the channel opened, J1 spoke clearly. Attention all human forces. This is Captain J1 Park of the UEDF Indomitable. We apologize for being late. We are here to even the odds. On the orbital defense station. Sujin heard those words and felt tears streaming down her face. Around her, officers were crying openly, laughing, shouting with joy. A ship from the past had returned to save the future. The Indomitable dove into the hegemony fleet like a shark among minnows. Its railguns, powered by stolen alien technology and 200-year-old human ingenuity, tore through enemy shields with contemptuous ease. Its missiles carried warheads that the modern hegemony had no defense against. Its fighters moved with speed and precision that seemed impossible. Jin Woo led his squadrons through the enemy formations, targeting command ships and carriers, just like old times. He whooped over the comb. These guys never had a chance. Taeyao worked miracles in engineering, keeping the weapons firing, and the shield strong even as dozens of enemy ships focused their fire on the Indomitable. Captain, that new reactor is performing beyond specifications. I could kiss whoever designed it. You designed it, J1 reminded him. I know. I'm a genius. Young Mi coordinated the defense with ruthless efficiency, directing point defense against incoming missiles and organizing damage control teams. Boarding party attempting to breach our hull. Sending security teams. They're going to regret that. The battle raged for hours. The Indomitable took heavy damage, but it gave back 10 times worse. Hegemony ships exploded or retreated in disorder. The neat blockade formation around Earth fell apart as ships scrambled to respond to this impossible threat. General Wu Jin watched from the surface as the sky lit up with weapons fire. Human ships that had been retreating for years suddenly counterattacked, inspired by the Indomitable's arrival. Soldiers who had been ready to die fighting suddenly believed they might actually live to see tomorrow. All forces, advance. Wu Jin ordered. Push them back. On the defense station, Su Jin received a priority communication. The face that appeared. On her screen was lined with age and weariness, but she recognized it instantly from the historical records. Captain J1 Park, looking exactly as he had 200 years ago, plus a few extra years. Commander Bay, J1 said formally. I'd like to speak with Admiral Hai-Jin Kim. Is she available? Sujin's heart broke a little. Captain, Admiral Kim died 15 years ago. She was 97. But she never stopped believing you'd come home. Her last words were, he'll bring them back. J1 will bring them home. J1 closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, they were hard as diamonds. Then we'll finish this for her. All human ships form up on the Indomitable. We're taking back our world. 6 months after the Indomitable's return, Earth was unrecognizable. The orbital shipyards that had been silent for decades now burned with activity, building new ships, based on the designs and technology the lost carrier had brought home. The skies were clear of enemy vessels for the first time in 70 years. People walked the streets without fear of bombardment. Children who had only known war were learning to laugh again. J1 stood in the rebuilt command center, now serving as Fleet Admiral of the United Earth Defense Force. The promotion still felt strange. He was 50 years old, but in the 6 months since returning home, he felt like he had aged another decade. The weight of command was heavier than ever. Su-Jin entered the room, now promoted to Admiral herself. She had taken over coordination of the new fleet, while J1 planned the larger strategy. The third wave of new ships will launch next week, she reported. 50 vessels, all equipped with hybrid human hegemony technology. We're calling them Avenger-class destroyers. Good, J1 said. We'll need them. On the display wall, a massive star map showed the current state of the galaxy. A hegemony still controlled vast territories, but red marks showed where human forces had struck back, liberating worlds that had been enslaved for decades. The legend of the ghost carrier had spread like wildfire, and now that legend had become reality. Taiyang appeared on the communication screen, speaking from the engineering bay of the new flagship Indomitable II. Admiral, I've finished training the engineering crews on the quantum drive systems. They're not as good as our original crew yet, but they're learning fast. How many ships can jump at once? J1 asked. With the new network? 100 ships can jump together. I've integrated the Kalish navigation data, so we can reach any system in the galaxy within a week. A week to cross the galaxy. It had taken J1 and his crew 5 years to fight their way home, but now Earth could strike anywhere, anytime. The balance of power was shifting. Young Mi was training the new generation of security forces, passing on everything she'd learned during their long journey. Jin Woo had become an instructor for fighter pilots, though he still took to space whenever possible. Yoon Seo was leading the navigation school. Sung Ho was helping rebuild Earth's medical infrastructure. The original crew of the Indomitable had become legends. Statues were built in their honor. Children played games pretending to be them. Songs were written about their journey. But to J1, they were just people who had done what needed to be done. A priority alert flashed on his console. General Wu Jin's face appeared, grim but not defeated. Admiral, we've received a response to your ultimatum. The Hegemony Supreme Council wants to negotiate. J1 had sent a simple message to the Hegemony 2 weeks ago. Leave human space immediately and release all occupied worlds, or face total war. At the time, he hadn't been sure they would even respond. The Hegemony was arrogant, used to being the dominant power, but Earth's counteroffensive had shocked them. Human ships appearing from nowhere, striking deep into Hegemony territory, vanishing before reinforcements arrived. The same tactics J1 had used during his 5-year journey home, but now with 100 ships instead of 1. Tell them we'll negotiate, J1 said, but the terms are non-negotiable. They withdraw, or we keep pushing. The negotiations took place on a neutral station provided by the Kalish, who had become humanity's strongest allies. The Hegemony sent 3 Supreme Council members, each representing one of their major species. They arrived expecting to negotiate from a position of strength. Instead, they found themselves facing Admiral J1 Park, flanked by his veteran crew, with a fleet of human warships visible through the station's viewports. The lead Hegemony counselor, a being covered in blue scales, spoke through a translator. You have made your point, human. You are not as weak as we believed. But surely you understand that continuing this war benefits no one. You're right, J1 said calmly. It doesn't benefit you. Every day this war continues. We grow stronger and you grow weaker. Every world you occupied is rising up against you. Every species you enslaved is looking to us for liberation. You cannot fight the entire hegemony. Another counselor protested. J1 leaned forward. Watch us. We spent 70 years fighting for survival. Now we're fighting for justice. The difference is, we're not alone anymore. The Kalish stand with us. The Vrelith rebels stand with us. A dozen other species stand with us. We're not starting a war. We're ending one. The negotiations continued for 3 days. The hegemony tried to bargain, to find some way to maintain their power, but J1 wouldn't budge. He had seen too much suffering, too many enslaved worlds, too much cruelty disguised as order. Finally, on the 3rd day, the hegemony agreed to his terms. They would withdraw from human space and release all occupied worlds. They would pay reparations for the damage inflicted on Earth, and they would face trials for war crimes committed against humanity and other species. It wasn't everything J1 wanted. Some of the hegemony's leaders would escape justice. Some worlds would remain under their control, but it was enough. It was a beginning. When J1 returned to Earth, he found a planet transformed. The orbital defenses were stronger than ever. The shipyards were building vessels that combined 200 years of human innovation with captured hegemony technology. The population, beaten down by decades of war, was standing tall again. Dr. Ji Yoon Hwan met him at the spaceport, grinning. Admiral Park, I wanted to show you something. She led him to a museum that had been built to honor the Indomitable and its crew. Inside, preserved under glass, were Admiral Hai Jin Kim's personal logs from the war years. Ji-1 read them with tears in his eyes. She never stopped believing you'd return, Ji-Yoon said softly, even when everyone else gave up hope. She would tell young officers stories about you, about the Indomitable. She kept the faith alive. One entry caught J1's attention. It was dated 1 year before Admiral Kim's death. I am old now, and I know I won't live to see his return. But I believe with all my heart that J1 Park will come home. He promised to show the universe what humans can do, and J1 has never broken a promise. When he returns, he will find an Earth that never surrendered. We will make him proud. J1 stood there for a long time, remembering the young woman who had taught him to be a leader, who had believed in him when he was just another officer. She had been right. He had come home, and he had brought hell with him. 3 months later, J1 stood on the bridge of Indomitable 2, preparing to lead a fleet of human ships on a new mission. Not a mission of war, but of exploration. The hegemony's power was broken. The freed worlds were building their own futures. Earth was secure and thriving. It was time to return to humanity's original purpose, exploring the stars. Young Mi stood at her station, older now but still sharp. Jin Woo was at the helm, gray showing at his temples. Tae Yang monitored the engineering systems with the same enthusiasm he'd had 20 years ago. Yoon Seo was at navigation, ready to plot courses to places no human had ever seen. Sung Ho was in medical, preparing for whatever they might encounter, the original crew of the Indomitable, together again. Ready for one more journey. All ships report ready. Su Jin's voice came through the com from the command center on Earth. Good luck. Fleet Admiral Park, bring back some good news for once. J1 smiled. Will do. Yoon Seo, plot a course for the Andromeda sector. Let's see what's out there. Course plotted, Yoon Seo confirmed. All ships, J1 announced to his fleet. We spent 5 years fighting to get home. We spent 6 months saving it. Now it's time to remind the galaxy what humans do best. We explore. We discover. We make friends among the stars. And anyone who threatens Earth or its allies will learn why they call us the species that wouldn't die. Jump on my mark. 3.2.1. Jump. 100 ships, led by the vessel that had become legend, disappeared into quantum space. Behind them, Earth watched with pride. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited with uncertainty. Humanity had returned to the stars. And this time, they were here to stay. J1 looked out at the stars rushing past and thought of Admiral Kim, of everyone they'd lost, of everyone they'd saved. They had started this journey as explorers 200 years ago. They had become warriors out of necessity. But now, finally, they could return to being what they always meant to be: explorers, defenders, friends to those in need. And a warning to those who would threaten peace. The ghost carrier was no longer a ghost. It was a promise. A promise that humanity would never be conquered, never be destroyed, never give up. The galaxy had learned to tremble at the sight of human ships. Now it would learn to celebrate them. And somewhere, J1 believed Admiral Kim was smiling.